Welcome back to the Reality Railroad Shop as we continue a RailPro install on this GP7 USA Trains. Part 3 is installing the proper voltage warm glow LED lights. Okay, so the first step that we're going to like to do is lights. And this is all going to make a liar out of me again. We're going to be switching from 5mm to 3mm. This is also, people like to change the colors of their lights. This is the time to do that. You need to understand what color of light you want. What we're doing is we're bending the light while we're holding the base of the wire. Again, all the lights have the resistors on them. Put a dab of glue on your light. And then just stick it in to the housing. Now, one of the things that's probably should be mentioned is we start with the one closest to the top. So as you can see in here, we have the first one done. We'll get our next light prepped. And then we're going to start with the bottom one. You just want to hold it there for a second, make sure you get a good connection. And that it's not going to come undone, or the glue's not going to pull apart like it just did. It's all good things, right? That way you guys can see what you can do and what you can't do. Also, too, this is a great time to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish with the marker lights, because they're the next thing that have to be done. And I bring it up because this is either you want colors, you want resistors, you want to be able to go back and forth, you want it to go with the motion of the train. All those are different wiring tactics, but for argument case, what we're going to do is we're putting the warm glow in there, and they're going to be individually wired from the front to the back. So I'll show you how to do that. So we just put a dab of glue on there again, and then we're just sticking it inside of the actual marker lights, or class lights, excuse me, and let that sit down in there. Now, it's very important that you do it in this order, because in order to reuse the actual lenses that USA Trains provides, you can't do this and see where you're putting things, because the lens blocks it from you and it makes it impossible to put it where you want it to go. So it's something to be mindful of, and when I first started out, I didn't know any of that, and so it was a problem. And there's nothing like or worse than taking your whole install apart and starting over when you already did all the work. And there's also a way to, I'm using the pliers, but you want to make sure it firmly goes into the, I guess, socket, if you will, that's on the chassis of the frame. And the reason I bring that up is because if the light is not all the way in the socket of the frame, then one will be brighter than the other. The lights will be offset, meaning that the class light won't be fully lit. It'll only be lit on the half of it. And that looks really bad. It looks very poor when you're running a train, especially at nighttime. So it's something to be mindful of. Make sure that it goes all the way in the socket. Now at this time, there's already a lot of wires coming out. What I like to do is the brown portions of my leads or LED lights don't really mean anything, because I already know they're all power and they're all consistent voltage. So what I'll end up doing is these particular lines are very tricky, because they pop and they tear. And so what I'll do is it's a little bit of mani on this one. So I'll twist the wires together because I know that these are the correct wires for my headlight, and then the front glass lights. This is crucial, and you don't want to mix the light, your lights up because you're in a rush or whatever the case may be. It's just good to take an extra moment. And make sure that the correct lights are together. Again, you don't want to get the whole train put back together, and one headlight goes on with one class light. That would be very embarrassing and just horrible. Now, with our lens lights here, or running boards, I should say. Again, we're going to take the 3mm lights, and we're going to bend them. And I'm going to show you how we do it. There's multiple ways of doing this. I've seen it done many ways, but in the essence of time in the video, I'm going to do it this way and show you. The tape is not used to hold it in position. The tape is used to blot out the light from the interior of the train when it's running. So what we're doing is we're bending that shape, that L, and we're just placing it in there in the location. And what I like to do is just basically start the tape already on the light as such, and where you can see it's bent like an L form, and then the tape is on there as well. So then I could just stick that right into my socket here. Again, what we're trying to do is cover the entire portion of the lens with the tape. And we'll fix the rest later, the cut off, the hang off, so don't worry about that. Then what I'll do is, you'll see that there's this little dab, or this little corner that's not concealed with the tape. This is where I put a dab of glue. Make sure that the glue does not go within the housing. You don't want that. That would look very hokey. But you do want it on the frame of the lens holder here, which is the black portion. Cover it with the tape and let it dry. And we'll do the same thing with the next one. Okay, so now you can see from the inside of it, it's not going to show any light when you're done. Again, we'll do that dab of glue to hold that light there so it can't pull out when we're doing our wiring. And we also don't want to make sure that that glue does not go in the lens. The reason why we don't want it to go in the lens is because that will cause discoloring on the plastic. Not right now, but within a short period of time. Okay, while that's drying, and would be easy not to pull those lights out because they're drying with steel, but I did remove the wire casing so that we can keep our wires together and we're mindful of what is what. I'm going to slide that down in there. And this is where it gets fun, because bending it in a horizontal position and then sliding it over is not necessarily an easy thing to do. Everybody has a different tactic. But we drop it down from the top down to the bottom, and sticking this part in, lining it up closest to the middle is the best way, I believe. But again, everybody has their own way. And we're in. So, now that it's in, we're going to do the exact same thing that they did when they installed it in the first place, is a dab of glue to hold it in position, because it's very easily to pop out and cause problems for anybody later on. I usually do it on the top, or in this case it would be the bottom, but from the top down I would do it right on the top, and that's it. Now you can see how difficult it would be to get in class lights after this is put into position, especially after you glued it. It's very troublesome, to say the least. Now this means that the front of the train is now wired. Essentially all your lights are installed in their fixed positions. I like to use this tool. You can find it on, I guess, eBay and also Amazon. I don't know how to solder without using one of these things. I don't know how others do it, but this is how we do it. All the brown, again, I know that the voltage wise for what we're doing in the RailPro board and so on and so forth, we can take 3 of these brown wire leads and run them to one wire, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. So we want it to all be together the same length, so I'll grab 3 and then I'll cut them, giving myself the most workable area.
Is it any 3?
Any 3. So, and there's only going to be 6 total, so there's 3 and 3, and I'll get into the more later on why we're doing 3 in a moment. It's just like a plug. You know, you have white and black. This is red and black, same concept. So we're going to group the 3 together, twist the wire together, and then I'm going to use it and then fix these in position. Now I'm going to be using a, I believe it's 22. Wire cutters and splicers are, this is about 6 inches, well, more like 8 inches, but I like to use, I know I'm going to be cutting some off and some gets thrown away and wasted, but you can see how we do this, and then we're going to prepare our soldering iron. Heat wise, I usually have mine around, I don't know, anywhere between 850 and 900. This is the solder with the resin already inside of it, the core. I know it's more expensive, it's like $40 for a roll, but you know, it's just so much faster. And that's it. I mean, you can't get better than that. Okay, so now I have 2. You can do 1 or 2, whatever you feel more comfortable with, but I know this particular customer is very hard on his train, so I'm going to make sure that he doesn't pull stuff apart when he's running it. And he has grandkids too, so this way is definitely going to ensure that nothing gets pulled apart in the process, which is something that, you know, it might be a little detail, but that's when you have repeat customers, because you went the extra mile. I'm going to start with the smallest one first, then you go into the biggest one. The reason why we're heat shrinking is because it helps hold that connection together, but it prevents wires from pulling within inside of the train later on. It also protects it from grounding out or touching other connections. So now that's 3 right there. And so you're already getting close to being halfway done here. And then we grab the next 3. And then just repeat the same process. twisting the wires together. 8 inches of wire. Strip one end. And again, it all comes down to tools. You can purchase them your local hardware store, Amazon, wherever you prefer. I like to lay my wires flat together. Make sure they're clean. There's no over soldering or anything like that that would hold it up. We're going to get into our next step here for color wiring leads for the RailPro installation. I know that the fact of the matter is that your headlight is always orange, and then if you're running ditch lights, it's switches between white and yellow, which this does not have ditch lights, but it has class lights. So we're going to put the white in the front, yellow in the back. Okay, so our headlight is orange. So now we're going to know that these two lights that we twisted in the beginning of our front install here is orange. I'm going to grab those. And you can have your wire on hand. Some people do, some people don't. It's up to you. You can connect right to the leads if you like. It's up to you again. I don't. I usually give a little bit of extra room because of when we took this train apart, you notice how tight it was to pull it apart, and you didn't want to break anything. It makes it hard and difficult. We know that eventually the battery is going to give out. We know possibly that we might want to change the RailPro board or maybe change things up with the installation later on. So we want to make it as easy as possible to pull apart and make it as clean as possible at the same time. Oops. And just move that off to the side and go to the next one. Running boards are always black with RailPro. Again, if you want to run it a different color, feel free. All of our installations, the black is always used for running boards. And you can see how much faster it moves with the proper tools, the proper devices. Again, you don't need to use them, you don't need to buy them, but it speeds things along once you do have them. What I'm doing is I'm basically taking the larger soldering shield and then putting the smaller one within it, again for time, and then that way you don't have to slide both of them, but they both go on at once. Sliding it over your connection. Then once you get the bigger one on, you go as far as you want it to be, and then that you know your next one is going to be in the exact same or exact desired position. by cleaning up any of the shards or whatnot. That prevents the insulation shield for the soldering not to get torn when you're going through your process of installing. Something that you want to make sure is definitely clean as possible, but again, it goes into longevity. That can tear, it can get snagged, it can break over time. So with it not there and you take an extra second, definitely worth the time to do and make your install last longer for sure. Okay, so now we have our front end is completely wired. We have all of our lights detailed already in here. All the leads are done, and so you can either zip tie them together, you can not, whatever you prefer to do. Everybody does it a different way. Some people say heating is an issue for them, and they don't want to do it, and that's fine. You don't have to. The reason why we do it is because of time. When I zip tie these together, I don't do it super tight, but what that does is it prevents the wires from getting caught when we go back to put this all together. What I will do is I'll even these out, so kind of level the firm here because we don't have a lot of space, and so I'll do this to make sure that they stay in location. It's just one thing of tape, and really it's only for the go back together part. And there you go. Your front install is complete. Okay, back here with you, we got all of our color leads. So we just basically repeated the process that we did in the front of the locomotive in the rear of the locomotive. I will bring to the attention that we did yellow instead of white, so that we can recognize that what our rear class lights are going to be. And blue is the tail light in RailPro operation wiring. We also have running boards in the back too as well, and that's black. So we put the pieces in, and as you can see here, we'll just make sure that it's popped in properly and glue it in location. That way it doesn't pop out later on. Our next video will be part 4, finishing up the wiring